Well, welcome everyone. This is a paper section on consumer preferences. And my name is Alessandro Bonanno. I'm from Colorado State University, and I will be the moderator for this session. We have 3 papers and 2 speakers. All the papers are on using survey data, different methods on how to sort of understand consumer preferences using different methods. And I'm looking forward to seeing these 3 presentations. I could not find the blue piece of paper for moderator, so I'm going to use very advanced technology to tell you that we have 5 minutes left. 2, and then the time is up. I will, even though we have 3 papers, I will try to stick to the convention of 15 minutes presentations and 5 minutes of questions. That should leave us with a little bit more time, perhaps, to have additional discussion at the end of the presentations. And I'm going to have here the first presenter start, and she is Zui Wang from the University of from Utah State University will present a paper on the use of machine learning to elicit willingness to pay on coffee, if I believe. Please.
Okay. My name is Zhu Yiwang. I'm a third-year PhD student in the Department of Applied Economics at Utah State University. And thank you all for coming to the presentation. And I'm really happy to share my research entitled Uncover Drivers Influencing Consumers' Willingness to Pay Using Machine Learning, a case of organic coffee in Taiwan. And this research cannot be done without my co-authors' help, and they are listed here. Okay, so many willingness to pay study have applied multivariate regression to survey data, depending on the data structures. This square pole-based logic model and interval regression have been used, but unfortunately, there are some shortcomings using these regression approaches. So first, regression approaches can have a limited ability to extract information from unstructured data. So economics working with the data are highly structured, like panel data, time series, and cross-sectional. But there are increasing number of unstructured data, such as text, image, and speech are become available. So we probably cannot use regression approaches to analyze them. And second, regression approaches have restrictive functional form with little theoretical background. So our economic theory does not give clear guidance about how about the specific functional form of the equation. And third, regression approaches have limited ability to deal with large number of explanatory variables. And so when we have our survey data, but what if we want to know who and or what types of consumer is more likely to purchase this good or services, and or we want more detailed information about this willingness to pay data, and when we want to uncover some hidden information in the data which maybe the regression approach may not identify, or our data is unstructured. So we propose to use machine learning. So machine learning is basically is concerned with the computer algorithm that transform data into information and knowledge, so we can use them. And so there have what can machine learning bring to our bring us? So it can so machine learning increases the flexibility with respect to both data and functional form, and this machine learning play an important role in making unstructured data, making they can make some information from this unstructured data. And the machine learning, we can use this machine learning to address logic K problem, which means that this method can deal with many explanatory variables in our model. So machine learning has two types. The first one is a supervised learning, and it is defined by its use of label data to label the data set to train algorithm that to classify data or to predict outcomes. The second one is unsupervised learning. It is a type of algorithm that learn the patterns from unlabeled data. So in our case, we are interested in an association rule. This one, it is type of a unsupervised learning. So association rule, or sometimes we call this market basket analysis, is a machine learning that is based on rules to discover hidden relationship among variables or item set and specify the patterns of relationship among these variables. So so this association rule, primarily we can say it use probability rule, and I will explain. So how does this association rule work? So association rule use statistical measures such as confidence, support, and lift. So support as first one is support as defined in this slide. It just measures how frequently an item set occurs in a data set. So basically, it's the number of it appears divided by number of respondents. Number of the total number. And the second measure is confidence. It is defined as a ratio of support of X and Y to support of Y. It is identical to the conditional probability of Y given X. And I will explain this with an example later. And using support and confidence, lift is defined as a ratio of confidence of X to Y to the support of Y. It measures how much more likely a consumer has Y relatively to typical data, giving consumer consider X is important. Now, here's an example. Say we have 10 respondents regarding, we ask their question regarding regarding coffee attributes and their willingness to pay. For example, the first one, the first respondent think coffee aroma and coffee brand are important and they have a high willingness to pay. And the second one think coffee brand is important, but this respondent has a low willingness to pay. So in total, there is 6 people think aroma is important and 5 think brand is important. And among these 10 respondents, 5 have a high willingness to pay up to our coffee. They taste it. Okay, so now we want to find, our goal is that we want to find what lead to high willingness to pay. So first we calculate support. So for example, support of high willingness to pay, the number of high willingness to pay appear in the data divided by the number of respondents, which is 0.5. Similarly, we can find all other support of the item sets. All right. So next step is to calculate the confidence. So for example, confidence of aroma to high willingness to pay is the support. Confidence to high willingness to pay is the support of aroma and the high willingness to pay divided by the support of aroma. So based on this table, we can find the confidence of from aroma to high willingness to pay 0.83. So what that means? It generally means that if a survey respondent think aroma is important, then there is 80% of chance that the survey respondent will have a high willingness to pay to organic coffee. And with similar fashion, we can find confidence for other item sets. Now, so using the confidence and the lift, we can calculate lift. Using the confidence and the support, we can calculate lift. So for example, lift of aroma to high willingness to pay is the ratio between confidence of aroma to high willingness to pay to the support of high willingness to pay, which is let's say 1.7. And what's the meaning of this 1.7? It just says, so we can interpret based on our small example, we can see that the consumer who think coffee aroma is important would have about 1.7 times more likely to have a high willingness to pay for the coffee. And lift of brand to high willingness to pay is calculated to be 0.4. It means that the consumer who think a coffee brand is important would be less likely to have a high willingness to pay than random survey respondent. Now let's apply this method to a real world survey data. So a little bit background. So the coffee consumption in Taiwan has been increased a lot. And you can see in these articles, especially there were more coffee consumption than tea in 2021. And for this study, we conducted a survey during August and September 2020 in the Central City. And the survey was conducted in the Salad Cafe, and we collected 192 samples in total. So during this during this survey, the respondent customer who visited this cafe were offered a choice of completing a questionnaire with a cup of sampled organic coffee, and then ask their willingness to pay and how do you like the coffee. They just taste it. To save time, I'm not going to talk about the data, including social, economic, demographics, and the coffee drinker habits. So please refer to my paper in the data section, which is available in Econ Search. Okay, so the interval, in our case, interval regression is used to estimate willingness to pay, since the respondent who need to choose one of the multiple range of willingness to pay options. So willingness to pay, simply we can see the willingness to pay has upper and lower bound. So the result shows that based on this regression, the result shows that if the consumer like the sweetness of organic coffee just tasted, then he or she might have a higher willingness to pay. And other important variables are country of origin and organic certification. So they think the organic certification and the package is important, and they tried organic coffee before. Like interestingly, the coefficient, the sign of Starbucks, this one is negative, which means buying coffee in Starbucks has a negative effect. So which is a little bit interest. All right, so now let's turn to the machine learning. Say we want to find the hidden information in our data. So we use the a priori algorithm in our package, and in total we have more than 300,000 rules. And these are the restrictions where we set the support and the confidence, and more than 6,000 of them rules has the high willingness to pay on their right hand side. And if we order all these 6,000 rules by their lift, this is the first rule. It tells us that a consumer is 2.1 times more likely to choose high willingness to pay if he or she drink coffee frequently and like the bitterness and sweetness from the coffee just tasted and tried organic coffee before. And since we have 6,000 rules, it is hard to go through all of them and identify interesting ones. So we're gonna use the graphic. We're gonna use the visualization to examine all the result. So this is graphic-based techniques. So these techniques represent our association rule with circles, arrows, and boxes. And in this case, box represent items with a note of the item size. And the circles represent rules, and all those arrows connect the arrow with, arrow connected with rules and item site. So, okay, so the rules indicate a different combination of right-hand side items in the box to high willing to pay. So for example, the first one said there are, so this one, there are 4 arrows come to the rule number 1, and the rule number 1 goes high willing to pay. So other rules can be interpreted in a similar way. So note that all 8 of the rules has a lift of 2.1. So this is equally important in terms of lift. Okay, and I also collect the top 104 rules into high willingness to pay and calculate the frequency of items appeared. And all these 104 rules has have a lift of 2 or above, as shown in the example. As shown here, for example, tried organic coffee before appeared in all 104 rules, which means it's very important. I believe the item listed here are somehow associated with high willingness to pay, and the regression approach may not identify some information because many of them are not statistically significant. So there's one caveat we should address is that the association rule result cannot interpret as a causal relationship. So here is an example. High willingness to pay showed up on the left-hand side items. So in this case, it just means someone think country of origin is important, has high willingness to pay, and we think price is important, would be is 2.2 times more likely to consider the brand is also important. And in sum, this presentation demonstrates the association rule as a tool to uncover the hidden information or patterns in the willingness to pay data. Machine learning and regression approach can be complementary to each other to overcome some shortcomings with the regression approach. And this is all I have. I would like to take some questions if there's any. Oh, okay, thank you very much. Go ahead.
Oh, there are other questions, and backup person is going to keep things. No. I have one suggestion for your presentation. It would have been extremely effective if you had put those results of the interval regression close to your results of the machine learning. Because that I was trying to remember. I know that organic was there, country of origin was there, gender was negative, but I don't remember all of them. So because you're trying to compare the methods, that will really help bring your message home. And so I was trying to what I remember from patient statistics. So this is a lot of conditional probabilities divided by other unconditional probabilities in a way. So every time you have one of these rules, you have a so what you have. So two things. Another suggestion. Unless you have a strong identification strategy when you use regression, all your results are associations. And these are associations too. So it's like, unless, I mean, a lot of marketing and consumer preference research, yes, you have experiments and that might help you claim causality, but usually it's better if you keep the language to association. So at that level, there is little difference of what you can discover with this. I mean, this is more powerful, and logic, probit, or whatever. So that brings more strength to what you're doing. Because to say, these are both association methods. Mine is just a lot more powerful than linear regression, interval regression, or whatever. So that will, I don't know if I'm making sense. This is not a question, a suggestion. Yeah. And I'm trying to, I mean, before COVID hit, I really wanted to learn machine learning, but then 2 kids at home, staying at home, 1,000 square feet house, teaching online. So that has been something that I'm waiting for my sabbatical. This is actually not, I really like what you're doing. One question that I have is, I use a lot of scanner data to do consumer research, which at the end of the day, it results in very similar thing. You attach attributes to a value of utility or associated with our willingness to pay. What is the limitation of these tools if I want to apply to data sets of, let's say, 100,000 households having weekly purchases of coffee? It's not a survey, it's observed purchases. Can I still use this? What can I learn from it?
Well, I haven't talked about the 100,000 data, but I think if you have arrange your data properly, I think.
What would be
If I may.
Yeah.
The answer is yes.
Yeah.
And the name of this method is market basket.
Yeah.
Actually, this method is applied to movie, not the willingness to pay. So what we are doing is that we are using not to apply the method to the willingness to pay something. So our approach is somewhat new.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's very nice.
Your the scanner data is actually the data we are. That's a perfect example. You can use it. And I don't see any limitation. It's very efficient to calculate so many data sets.
One thing I'm very interested, I do demand studies and use a lot of discrete choice, like random coefficient models. And the one question that always comes up is, how did you select the characteristics to put in your demand model? And this could be a very good way, because if you have like a lift of 2.1, you say, I'm going to pick all those combinations, or not combinations, all the confidence, all the items together that go to a certain level, that will guide me. And I looked at your table. Can you go back? So if you were to tell me, well, yes, this one, how do I know that the first 4 are important, the first 8 are important, or the first 10 are? What is the decision rule if I want to run a demand model and I want to select the characteristics?
Now I remember the limitation. That's the limitation. Because this is not the statistical statement. So there's no significant, non-significant. It's just the frequency.
Probability in a way.
It's not a probability. Just
the
frequency.
Okay, yeah.
So we pick 104 words. Among them, trial organic coffee was included 100% time. That is information got from this method. We don't have anything like regression type.
No, what I'm saying is, if I use this to guide my demand model.
Correct. So
should I stop at organic certificate, or should I go to bitterness, safety?
I don't have any good answer for that.
How do you interpret the
Interpretation.
Oh, yeah, like.
Well, in a rule, we have a combination of these items. I don't know how many items we have. So not individual, like a combination, like try to organic coffee, drink coffee frequently. So can you go back one more slide? Rule number 1.
Number 1.
That's a rule number 1. The combination of 4 items, like drink frequently, like the vitamins, like the sweetness, after tasting the organic coffee, and respondents have tried organic coffee before, then there's a 2.1 times more likely to choose IUD.
So it's a combination of different items.
Correct.
Correct. 100% of your combinations included dried organic coffee.
Yes.
Of those 104 combination, 100% of them had.
Yes.
Okay.
So the tried organic coffee appeared 104 times in 104 rules. The rules means the combination of these items.
if they give a lift of 2 point whatever threshold was.
Yes, so we pick 104 rule because it has 2 times more likely to choose.
So if I wanted to use this to drive my demand models, I would use, let's say, households chose Starbucks coffee organic as my 1-0. In your cases, I willingness to pay. And then pretty much borrow from this method, I mean, just apply this method to see which ones are the items that appear more frequently when someone chose a specific. I learned something today. Other questions?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Now we have Henrietta.
Yes.
Was
Yeah.
2 presentations. Which one is the first one?
Well, I have to share.
I thought it was the share was the screen, so whatever we were presenting.
Oh, okay.
You're sharing now.
I think I'm sharing now.
Perfect. The first presentation.
Hello, everybody. My name is Henriette Gitungwa. I am from Rwanda originally. I'm doing my PhD in agriculture economics at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. I'm going to present 2 papers that I'm doing for my dissertation. And Christopher Gustafsson is my advisor. So the first paper is about how does incomplete consideration set of consumer product affect valuation estimate. Valuation estimate means valuation here is willingness to pay. Before I go any further, this previous research have shown that there is an increase of product that a consumer is exposed to in an average supermarket. For example, there is now, since 1990 to 2018, have been an increase of product from 7,000 to 40,000 items that you are being exposed to. So that's a lot of product. For example, now a consumer has to face 274 boxes of cereal. And that's a lot of cereal that you have to be looking at before you make your final choice. And then in economic literature, we have this theory saying that we have a classical revealing preference theory that say that a consumer has to consider all available options before making their final choice on the market. And there is some study that have shown that actually that's not always true, because you cannot really consider everything before you make your final choice. You can see that woman is confused a little bit. She's like, that's a lot of cereal that I have to choose from. So those other study has proclaimed that actually due to this overabundance of product, a person has has time constraint, has limited attention to pay attention to all those products that cause to lead to incomplete consideration set. When I say incomplete consideration set, somebody can say, what is that? So often that's a term used in the marketing or psychology, but it's being adopted also in economic papers. And it's fully used when you're trying to define the set of product a consumer is actively considering when they are ignoring others. So whenever I say set consideration set, I am meaning a set of product that somebody is considering before final choice. Why do we care about that, that consideration set? It's because often when somebody is exposed to, for example, again, that picture showing you how many cereal are out there or product, people have a limited information processing attention. They have habitual buying behavior. They have time constraint, information cost, searching cost. All those lead to this incomplete consideration set. So our study is trying to see, oh, by the way, if we consider that a consideration set versus when we assume that somebody consider or option, what's going to affect, how that going to affect the willingness to pay. So we are trying to see the impact of incomplete product consideration set on attribute valuation versus when we assume there is a standard assumption that people consider everything. And our hypothesis is that we know that the valuation estimate when we have a consideration set is very different when we have a full consideration set assumption. Why do we care about this? It's because these days actually, again, consideration set is a new term that is being adopted in economy, mostly is more in a psychology or marketing. So we are trying to, there is many studies that have started to introduce it in economy, but now we are also few of them that are trying to use it to see the consideration set, how that affects valuation estimate or willingness to pay. And advantage of using consideration set is because it helps you to understand what you can be able to identify the participant who are looking a specific set versus assuming that they are looking everything. So the more you know what they are looking at, you can understand their behavior, their choices. We used the data we collected online about ready-to-eat breakfast cereal. We used IRI that we sent our survey and they collected data for us. We used national representative sample of 2,300 USA participants by age and gender and income. And again, so whenever I say a consideration set, if you see this picture, you will not know what kind of consideration set she's making. It means you don't know what she's considering before she make her final choice, right? But obviously she's making a consideration set, but we cannot be able to observe that. So because of that, we had to create our own consideration set so that we can be able to observe what a person is going to make and what product that person is going to look at. So for that, we chose to use the 33 cereal products. We classified them in 3 groups based on the guiding star nutrition rating system. Is a system where any product you have on the market, you can put it there. It will tell you whether it's healthy or unhealthy. It's gonna rate it based on the criteria they have. So we classify those cereal in 3 categories: less healthy, medium healthy, and healthier. And we had 11 cereal for each group. But again, we did it based on the guiding star and nutrition system. So in the survey we had, participants were asked to select a consideration set they want to look at, and that from that consideration set, they will choose a product later. And for example, this is some of the screenshot in the survey. It's showing these are the name of the consideration set. This one first. If you click in any of the one you want, you're actually going to see that second screen. In that second screen, that's why you will see the cereals. Each cereal has the name, calorie, fat, sodium, fiber, sugar, and the price. So a person is clicking on whichever they want, but they choose once. They don't go out and come back. And then they choose a product they want to buy.
Can you go back and choose if they see this 9 and they don't like any of them? Can you go back?
We did not have that option. It's like moving forward. Yeah. So once you choose something, you go. But then they didn't know, looking on this consideration, said they couldn't tell whether it's something is healthy or not. We tried to avoid the social desirability bias. So nobody say, oh, I knew that this set was healthier than the other one, unless you knew the name of the cereals. Because these names are based on the cereal that are in the set. So because we didn't want to have that biasness of social disability. And so a person will, based on those attributes that a cereal has, to choose which product they're going to buy. But they first of all had to choose a consideration set. And all option consideration set had all these three combined in there.
Just to his question, if you missed one and let's say number two, then you would be able to pick it on the all options?
Oh, so if you, let's say I'm the one choosing, I chose this. I'm just seeing the product that are in there. I'm not going to have a chance again to go outside and choose the other one.
Oh,
So you choose a set and then you go with the set.
that's it.
But if I choose all option, means I actually saw all these sets like this. I say, let me choose all option, because we actually explain what is all option means. We know that it means that all the cereal that are identified in this set below are also in that one. So if somebody would say, oh, I don't want to know only this cereal, this set, I rather see all of them.
So that would be the difference in that woman standing in front of like one part of the aisle.
Yes.
Versus I am very undecided. I walk back and forth.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so for estimation, we use a random utility model. And so in this case, we are saying that a person is going to consider those attributes that a cereal has, the calorie, fat, sodium, price, to make their final choice of a cereal once they are in the consideration set. And so because our objective is to see the willingness to pay when you have a consideration set versus when you assume a full consideration set, we have this. This is our, we use this regression model, binary logit model. So here I'm going to be looking the willingness to pay for each category, each attribute or marginal valuation, meaning that any attribute is going to affect what kind of choice of cereal that I'm going to make. This is the result we have. So this is a raw consideration set, medium, healthy, or option, and this is what we found out. So, and these are marginal willingness to pay. It's not willingness, it's an addition, 1 unit, how much somebody is willing to pay. What we found out, actually, people in, we found out the marginal willingness to pay are different from one consideration set to another. But we also found a high significance difference between fat and fiber. So when if we look at fat, the interpretation say that, for example, in the medium consideration set, so a person, 1 additional unit of fat, a person who were in that medium consideration set would need to be compensated 20 cents for him to add more fat on his consumption. But in healthy consideration set, a person actually is willing to pay $2.97 for an additional unit of fat. I don't know if it makes sense. So in this case, these people are looking different type of cereals. People here are looking cereal that have more fat and healthy cereal than this one from in a healthy cereal. Their willingness to pay are different. This means that the willingness to pay has changed based on the cereal you chose to look at. So in fiber, for example, you see that people in healthy cereal consideration set have minus willingness to pay. That means actually these people are not willing to pay for an additional unit of fiber because they are already in a healthy set. Because their cereal already have enough fiber, they don't want to add more money to buy additional fiber because they already have enough fiber in their cereal. But if you see in the medium here, these people are seeing cereal that has less fiber amount. They are willing to pay more 20 cents to have additional unit of fiber. So again, this depends on what type of cereal you are looking at, how amount of attribute they have, and that affect your willingness to pay. So we try to add demographic variables in our regression, in this regression, but it did not change anything. So that's why I just added them here to just explain it. Overall, in the conclusion, we have seen that the attribute or willingness to pay for attribute did look very different when you know what people looked at. When I say we know what people looked at, it's because we know people who looked raw consideration set cereal, we know that the cereal were not healthy. Versus when we know in healthier consideration set, we know cereal were healthier. So we know what people looked at. But when you assume that it is a full consideration set assumption, we actually don't know what the person did look at. So that's how we are saying that consideration set allow us to know what people took into account consideration set when they made their willingness to pay valuation, versus when we say that they fully considered everything. So we are at future study we are thinking to work on, or maybe somebody else can add something. We want to actually go deeper about understanding different type of consideration set, how they affect consideration set. And moving forward on this study, I'm adding more product. I'm adding bread. I'm adding cracker, and I'm trying to actually use panel data and see how that's going to even be. We will be able to control, have statistical control, and see how it's going to happen. What's going to happen? Thank you.
Questions after each presentation, so please questions or comments.
Kind of two related questions. First, you kind of got this at the end. Is there a specific reason that you pick cereals over other product categories?
It's because really that's actually not, there is no any reason specific. That's why I'm saying I'm going to add cracker and bread, because I already have those data as well. There is no specific reason, because we actually, the survey we have had all other product. We just wanted to see by using this cereal and see what happened.
Kind of somewhat related to that. If somebody comes into the study and they already are fairly familiar with like that large set of cereals, maybe they go in there searching for a specific cereal. Do you think that your analysis kind of controls that in any way? That might cause any issues?
Actually, one of the reasons why we chose maybe cereal on this than other product is because we know that cereal is mostly familiar. Many people in US are more familiar with cereal. And so we wanted actually to see how, whether they choose a set hoping to find their product than actually considering everything.
Other questions?
Yes.
What was the proportion of people that chose to see all options versus that chose to see?
We had so all option, we found out it was like around 20%. They are less, and then in raw consideration set we had 45%. Healthy consideration set we had 35%. So they vary. That's the thing I said, that we actually tried to control for demographic, but we did not see any difference.
Not the cereal, consideration set. It's fund that choose the consideration set.
Uh-huh.
Find any sliding factors.
Can you explain?
Who's gonna choose which consideration set?
Oh,
Can your data explain?
I think it can actually, but I did not think that we, I don't think I did that.
How you try to segment the consumers? So we have those information that can explain.
So you are trying to see the demographic versus a choice of consideration set.
Well, right? We say who choose which
The
consideration
majority, okay.
first, and then we
Yeah. Okay, that's it. Yeah, we,
Actually, I have a very related question. I mean, my question was like in three parts. That was the first part. Because you have sort of a conditional choice.
mhm.
You show me first a choice between 3 and then a choice between 11, right? But because I can only choose one of those 11, if I am in that consideration set, automatically my substitution, I mean, you are forcing me
Yes.
to, you are imposing a certain way decision tree or utility tree on me.
In a way, I am and I am not, because you are the one who chose which consideration set you want to see. Because if you wanted to see everything, you could have chose our option.
Sure, I'm not saying that. But the
Yeah.
point is, if you're in a store,
Mm.
that does not happen.
Yes, but
So what I'm trying to understand, I don't know if all the data has already been collected. I would strongly suggest that you give people the option to go back.
oh, we give the option of actually not choosing anything.
But
Oh, you mean out and then choose another thing and see how the
for two reasons. One, because you're gonna know the first choice. And there's, I mean, it would be like, I see those 3 options and I'm confused. I don't know which one to choose, so I can choose all. Or I choose one and then, I didn't want that, but now I'm stuck. It's like I walk into, I don't know, a Trader Joe's and I realize there are no brand cereals.
yeah.
So, but I'm locked in. What am I gonna do now?
Because for us, we couldn't use the software to know that somebody went outside and came back or chose another studio. So we, based on their final choice of consideration set, assuming they probably went out and in and made those balance, but we kind of we were able to observe their final
I understand, but
But-
what you're doing is say, I have 3 stores. I have
Yeah.
Whole Foods, Albert, Kruger, and a Walmart.
yeah.
But once I'm in there, you lock the door.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. You don't allow me to go to the other store. And that's actually not what happens with consumers. So I understand the consideration set. It's, to me, it is a lot about, I'm still trying to figure out why you couldn't use a latent class model or a generalized logic model where you have, so something where you actually infer which products are more substitutes and belong to classes. But I don't know. That's the, and that goes back to, if you know which consumer choose which category, in a way, you're defining the class, right? So.
Okay. That's a good, I thought about rented, because for us for rented model is you're trying to control heterogeneity, right?
But that's the first choice. Also, characteristics might define which product you are, which what's the word? Conditional set.
Yeah, consideration
Consideration
set.
set. But that would be the latent part. You're just modeling it explicitly.
Okay, all right. Yes.
One more, and then we need to go to the next.
It's the same data anyway, so the question will be
Oh,
close,
okay.
similar. Yeah.
My question actually comes from your comment. So if you allow about data, can you later, let's say for example, we have 2 people. The first person goes to the low consideration set. Let's say go to the medium consideration set and stay there and think. But the second person went to the low consideration set, didn't have anything there, but then they changed to the bottom to the medium. Can you later on pull the data of that person to the medium? Just went straight to the medium. Person who went to the low and then changed their mind.
No, that's actually.
But that's maybe the bottom that is complicated.
But then you have a different consideration set. You have 22 products because you have looked at the first one, you didn't like it, you went somewhere else in the aisle, and you look at the other 11. So your consideration set at that point is 22.
That's important, as you said. They have tools.
the problem is the data. How can you be able to know? So like we know that for sure people went to a consideration set and they didn't like it. They went to another one. But for us, we couldn't observe that or use the system to capture
No, I
that.
understand that, but my suggestion is for the other products,
Mm.
you can ask the developer of the sort of like the when they go, first you choose 1, 2, 3, or 4. And then you can give them the option to choose one of the 9, choose nothing, or to go back.
Oh, okay.
Because that would be, then I can go from Whole Foods to Walmart. Then my consideration set becomes 22 products.
Okay. I did not think like that. So it's like giving them more option to be not to be limited by just one choice.
Because your assumption, I'm thinking about conditional
Condition-
choices.
Yeah.
You're saying you are forcing them to make a choice once they are in one nest. I'm thinking about a nested logic structure. I choose the health first, and then I choose a product. You're imposing that on me, and it could be that doesn't represent the way I choose, but then I'm stuck. So your results will be artificial.
But the fact we gave them the right to not choose if they don't find something they want, that's not
That's
forced.
outside option. That's yeah. The other thing I was thinking, how do we define the outside option? The groups have different outside option at that point.
What do you mean?
So the thing is, like what I have to see is like because you want to through your experiment, you want to give us the outcome in real life what would happen when they choose incomplete considerations and incomplete considerations. So in real life, we do have options to go back, check, come and back, But if you are not giving that option here in your experiment, so this is not going to represent the real life willingness to pay of an individual because you are kind of locking them in the room and you are forcing them, oh, you came here, now you have to choose a product because you don't have any way to go back to another thing. So that's kind of, in an experiment, kind of a forcing willingness to pay. And also, like, did you consider like consumer product loyalty? Because some people are very much loyal to one single brand that they would go to the store, they don't even look for any other brand, they would just go and pick it up. So I don't know if you are
We had that we had that variable for brand name and consider in my variable, but I did not include it, but that's what I'm going to do. However, the fact you're saying that I forced them, I actually don't agree, but I will take that into consideration. But I actually think I'm not, because we chose 33 brand that are nationally known type of cereal that we use, are not just local. And at the same time, the only issue we had is the system that couldn't let us know that somebody actually went out and chose. So we assume that this is their final choice based on everything they have seen in the product we have.
Also, it's just like follow from all this discussion. Weren't the choices there, like the consideration 1 had all the names in there?
Yes.
Yeah, so they knew what they were choosing.
Yes.
How would they go back?
Yeah.
Like when they were choosing the consideration set 1, all the names were there.
Yeah.
Once they
All
went,
the 9 names. were
Yeah,
there?
Yes.
All the products.
So in if they chose this product, they could go and see all those 11. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
but you have
also
only
names
2 or
are
3.
there on the set as well, right?
We based on 3 main cereal that are very known to be healthy or not healthy or less healthy to be the name of the consideration set. So if somebody did not like something in the one of the consideration set, they came out, but we couldn't observe that in the system we used. Then for us, we were able to see the final consideration set they make.
Can you, I mean, I know that your analysis is on willingness to pay.
Yeah,
Have you looked at market share predictions or switching?
market share.
I mean, when you have an experiment, you look at what they chose. Each one will have a market share. Like you have 33 products, and that's your entire consumer choice set.
Yes.
So each one will have a market share, so you know which one was the most preferred.
Okay, that's a
But
good point.
You can see
Okay.
once you are in the unhealthy one, the fact that you cannot switch from healthy to unhealthy, that would create a theoretical problem. So that's like you are three, I understand, it could be that I only like healthy, but then my market share is, my probability to tweak the product is within a level. So that will influence, but that would be interesting to see if the people in all options lead to a different, let's say, market structure, a different market share than the three ones.
Like adding some other group, let's say, for example, that example I made, if the person A went straight to medium, but person B went to low, then changed to medium, like differentiate between A and B, like on the other group, like prime or something, just because they have another option. And you end up like 6 actually low prime, medium prime.
You have three
But
seats, yeah.
because she then needs to control for how many times the person can get back. At least let's give them, because they can click backwards, below they can click backwards.
I mean, that's how you define it. You can be like, if you see all three of them, you are automatically kicked into all options.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you saw all options. Sorry, we just made your life so much more
I'm trying
You're
to,
welcome.
I'm,
So at this moment, it's very a lot of potential.
I really like the idea, because when I use like big demand models, I threw 70 brands of cereal.
yeah,
And I know that people are not gonna look at 70 brands of cereal.
right.
So it is very applicable. We have I think that this is what's creating the most this technical aspect of the way that the data were collected. I think is creating the most
If you wouldn't have put this slide, maybe you wouldn't have asked this question.
Right.
you
Yeah.
have to give us a different consideration set of stuff. No, thank you, and we should move on to your second presentation.
Thank you. Okay, so I think maybe you will skip some question because it's closely related to this. We use the same data this time, and maybe I may explain this time only. Now, the other paper, I have the same data, but we don't talk about the final product. We only talk how beliefs people who participated in this study, their beliefs or expectation about price, health and tests affected which consideration set actually they went to choose. So.
Would you mind if there were some comments in there?
Oh.
That might be old. Yeah, they're not.
Oh, these are old.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, that was the first. So again, the same data, but we are now trying to see the relationship between consumers' belief about price, about the product price, taste, and health, how that affect which choice of considerations that they went to choose, they chose, or it will show us the likelihood, I would say. Again, we based on this rational intentional theory saying that consumers have a limited capacity to process all information. So they choose a piece of information to pay attention to. And studies have shown that actually they base on their beliefs often when they are making this piece of information to pay attention to. So now we were trying to use belief to see how, those studies have shown that the model of rational intention so that consumer who are facing a lot of product heavily rely on their beliefs to create their consideration set. So let's say this is the cereal, when you go online, this is Hy-Vee site. This is how you see the cereals. And for here, these are consideration sets. Cereal for the flavor, new cereal flavor, kids classic cereal, family flavor cereal, healthy cereal. Those are actually considerations because when you click on it, you go to new cereals. That's actually, that's where we got in the inspiration of creating our own consideration set. So often they have seen that beliefs do affect people's consideration set. However, other studies have shown that actually consumers do hold inaccurate beliefs, often with health attributes, and that really do affect what product they put in their consideration set, and sometimes actually it's those products are not optimal. And some example of the study we found is that most people, we do believe that healthy food are more expensive, but sometimes it's not always true. And healthy food are cheaper, yes, but not always. Also, some studies have shown that consumer underestimate sodium or calorie content of food they buy. For example, if you go for Chipotle, I don't know if you guys know, you go there, they put food, or you choose things you want to buy, or you think you know how much of calorie you are getting, but actually the study have shown that when you tell the person how much of calorie they are getting, they get surprised, like, I didn't know this is how much calorie I'm getting. So there is belief versus the reality, and those are inaccurate beliefs that we based on sometimes when we are making choice. So here we want again to see how consumer taste and beliefs about healthiness and price of food product affect consideration set. We based on 3 hypotheses based on the previous studies. We say that an individual who has a taste preference that is more by so if I say a set, here I'm saying a consideration set. So if somebody assumes that this set has more test, has his test preference, he will likely choose that. And a person will also choose a set that he thinks is more healthier than the other one. And if he thinks a set A is more expensive, he will try to avoid that set versus going to the cheap set. Why do we care about this? So again, having consumer behavior or consumer decision making have been often being used going to the final choice, but as introducing consideration set and belief, that's a new, we are trying to see more about what things that influence consideration set before we go to the final choice. Also, we, as saying that we are considering consideration set, we're actually trying to examine also heterogeneity in preferences and belief, and by using consideration set directly. This is what I'm doing in moving forward with this study. I will work on the final product of the consideration set. So again, I use the same data. I'm not going to repeat the same thing. The difference here is that after the people have made a consideration set they want to choose, we actually ask them the belief questions. Those are, for example, we ask them to rate each consideration based on the expectation they have for each belief. For example, what do you believe is the average price of the product are here? So,
but didn't they see the prices?
What do you mean?
So they first did the choice, and then if you ask them what you believe the average price is, didn't they see the
so
price?
you kind of, it's like for them the range they even if they did, for them, what do they believe could be yes, for them, for rating the cereals, what do you think this should be or is to you? So those are the kind of belief, or how healthy do you think the cereal from these considerations are? And so we ask those questions for each consideration set. We use this Miltonomian model, means we use those beliefs that they gave us as a dependent variable to see how that affected the choice of consideration set they chose. And in this case, we know that our consideration set are 4. So we are trying to see how, if the beliefs you had affected which consideration set you chose, meaning that our consideration set is our categorical variable. This is what we found out. So we, for example, when I say 2 minus 1, we have 2 minus 1 is like expected price of cereal in medium versus relative to less healthy. So because they had a different range rating number, we tried to have a relative preferences by creating this variable. If interpretation here is saying that a participant, so we have medium, healthy, or option, means our reference variable is less healthy consideration set. And if we are trying to see what this means, is like a consumer who expects the cereal from this medium healthy to be more expensive than the cereal from less healthy consideration set, are less likely to buy the cereal from here. So is the likelihood, we use odd ratio. So what the main thing we find out here is that people who think the cereal from a consideration set are expensive, they are less likely to buy that product. They are less likely to choose cereal from that consideration set. But if they think the cereal from that consideration set are healthy because of what they believe, they are more likely to buy that cereal. The main thing we found out is here, because it's healthy consideration set. But people, just because they think that the cereal from here must be, because they are healthy, they must be expensive, they didn't go to look in that cereal set. I will explain this later. So the main finding here is that if somebody thought, again, I'm basing on their beliefs. If somebody thought that the cereal from a healthy cereal are expensive, they didn't. The likelihood to look into that, to choose that cereal, is less. Unfortunately, our cereal actually didn't have a highest price in the healthy set. But the fact your beliefs is like, oh, because they are healthy, they must be expensive. That person didn't even click and look and see, oh, I may be wrong. So that tells us that actually beliefs do affect what you choose, and it doesn't also help you to even click on something or try to see if you are wrong. So, I mean, that kind of show you the impact of beliefs we have, and eventually what we finally buy on the market. The good news, when you have an expectation that a cereal set is healthy, you are actually more likely to buy it. Of course, I think these are expected knowledge we have, but I think the fact we had healthy cereal that were having even lower price, but people couldn't even find out themselves, that's maybe the main thing we found out. Overall, we found out that expectation about taste and healthiness and price are important to shape the set of product, means the consideration set people consider during a food choice. And the findings are suggesting that mode of rational and complete consideration set depends also on beliefs. And also the fact that we, based on our belief to choose a product, we omit product that otherwise we could have chose if we knew more. So moving forward, my third paper is actually, I'm creating the survey trying to provide information and see if that will change people's beliefs, and then see the choice they're gonna make. Also, I'm going to base on the suggestion here you guys gave me and to kind of modify my survey. Thank you.
I mean, this is just a technical question. So the scale of taste from 0 to 100. So is that trying to, what's the, it seems quite spread out basically.
Yeah.
Somebody rating, I don't know, 83 versus.
That is why we try to create, because people had different scale. So for us to control that, that's how we created these relative preferences.
So everything is anchored on the less healthy of the relative.
Yes.
So if you get 0 to the less healthy and 100, then the different.
Yeah.
But is the 2 minus 1 always, is the 1 always less healthy, or people actually rank their?
What do you mean?
But this is just something for the subtle presentation.
Huh.
1 is always less healthy,
Yes.
and 2 is always
Medium.
and
3 is
always
healthier.
Why did you use M, H, and L instead of 2,
Oh,
1, and 3, and 1?
No, it's me trying to write down. I can change that.
I thought that you asked them to
N-
rank the 3 choices, the 3 consideration set.
I did, but I did not use 1 or 2 name. This is just naming a variable. That's it. It's not based on that.
Another thing I understand the data structure here.
Mhm.
The 5 to minus 1 is the difference between median and.
So it's like we are trying to see the relative ranking because our participant had used different range. Like he just asked, we used 1 to 100. Somebody could have did 40%, but to him, this is healthy to his. But so we try to kind of find the average by taking, it's like
I think I understand that. My question is how come 5 p minus 1 appear in a middle equation? Right there.
This one?
Yeah, no, the second one.
Oh, it's for this. Because this is
But you have a number over there.
3.
The medium has a constant tag of 0.05.
Why is the price of a product in a way? Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
I don't-
So it was
Because
confusing.
respondent choose the middle has a tag. How do you calculate? Price
Can you
P minus
repeat the
1?
question? I don't understand.
How did you get those values, basically? How were they available? Because respondents will
This?
give you the estimate of.
They gave me the estimate of their ranking. So the price is between 0 to 6.
All the options.
Yes. Yeah, to the or option also.
Then I have so this is a multinomial something logic problem whatever it is. So you have the difference in price
Yes.
for both products in each choice.
Yes. Yeah.
But I mean, theory of like a random utility theory, it says that it's the price that the product you chose that affects that choice. Instead, you're saying that it's the difference. So I'm trying to understand.
Yes,
how
because
you turn that into a conceptual
actually this helped us to know what exactly the person meant, because somebody did say, for example, I rank medium healthy to 40%. But when we did versus the person who say I rank medium healthy to be 30.
So how is that a utility model? What my thing is, I look at the utility that I get from buying I don't know Cheerios,
Yeah.
or I choose one consideration set.
Mm.
So the price, my perceived price of the actual price of the consideration set according to, I mean, the fact that it's the attribute of that product that affects my choice of that product. The price of the other product affect the choice of the other product.
Yeah.
Instead, you're throwing, it's like you're doing a discrete choice model as if it was a system of equations for demand. The price of the product you choose and the price of the other products, and that's why you get negative and positive. It's
Yeah.
on and cross prices.
Yeah.
Is that even consistent with a utility, a linear random utility model? I don't know if that-
But this is not.
But go back to my slide though. Then you don't have you there because.
Okay.
you
So
go down to the-
yes, you're trying to say that for this product, it shouldn't be.
No,
It's
I
like it
what you-
shouldn't-
I like it actually, but it's not a random utility model
It sh-
anymore.
Because it's not necessarily the final what you are the independent variable I'm using are not necessarily the determinant of my final considerations.
You're looking at the price and these are relative prices.
Yes.
If they were divided, they would truly be relative prices, but you're doing the differences.
Yes.
So everything that you have
Mm.
is related to unhealthy products.
Yes. Yes.
You might want to just not use, you might not use utility probably and just to try to come up with something else. because
To
that
call
way
this what?
I don't know.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's a Lancaster theory, the attributes of a product affect, I mean, it's a discrete, I don't know how to reframe it differently. And that's a problem of discrete choice model. So it's not
Yeah.
your problem. It's you know, assumptions that might not even be. Yeah.
Not explaining anything.
But at the same time, how because at this it's eventually the
In
fact.
that equation, I'm sure that's not why you should be like a good choice.
Yeah.
It's the function of
Yeah.
attributes.
Yeah,
But
that's
all of
true.
the attributes of the product that they are choosing. So if they,
It's a
chose-
consideration set they're choosing, not a choice of cereal.
I understand, but then you're asking them to tell you what they're expected. I mean, I don't know. I'm very confused. Sorry.
Yeah. At least I'm getting feedback.
Are you saying that you're happy about the discussion?
In a way, it's better than nothing. Yeah. One thing I understand you're probably right. You're trying to say that these differences shouldn't determine the utility, right? And it shouldn't be named random utility. Okay.
Your choice between the function of your choice, which is considered.
Okay.
There might be a way to change it if you still want to anchor everything to. So that would be choosing one product relative to healthy. That to the unhealthy. Unhealthy becomes the outside option.
Yeah.
And then all your prices are relative to.
Yeah.
You still have one price in each.
Yeah.
For each product.
Mm.
Sorry, I'm just I might need some sugar or something. I'm just in a bad mood.
No. I appreciate this because sometimes you need the feedback to know what's next to do or.
Can you embed the other one under these? Because in a way, you're explaining what we were talking about before. You're providing some explanations of why they chose that.
Yeah. Okay.
What do you embed them together? So what I'm saying is, if you now explain why I chose the healthy,
Yes.
then you're providing some information that should be included in your second stage, right?
Oh.
You know, this is very interesting. You're telling me now why they went into that.
Yeah.
condition set.
Yeah,
And condition on this, then they chose.
maybe I should have said that's the second paper or something like that. Okay.
Think other questions. I think we have gone to, yeah, we have. quite a bit.
Thank you. Mhm.
You are the best moderator.